Welcome to another bonus edition of Upon Further Review. And in this edition, we'll be going over the Week 7 matchup between the Seattle Seahawks and the St. Louis Rams. And you can catch this game on October 19th at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. And it'll be aired on your local Fox affiliate. As these two NFC West division rivals go at it, the Seahawks are 3-2 on the season, and the Rams are 1-4. The Seahawks started off by beating the Green Bay Packers decisively in the first game of the season on Thursday night, and they beat them by 20 points. But then they went to San Diego and they lost by 9 points to the Chargers. But then they went and they were back at home and they hosted the Broncos in the rematch of Super Bowl 48, and they won in overtime over Denver. They then had their bye week. And then after the bye week, they went to Washington and they beat the Redskins in a game that the scoreboard made look closer than it actually was. Then in Week 6, they hosted the Cowboys and they lost a heartbreaker in Seattle to Dallas. So they lost that game by a touchdown, as Dallas looked very impressive, and Seattle lost a rare game in Seattle. And as for the Rams, they've been struggling this season. They lost in Week 1 to Minnesota. Then they picked up their lone victory of the year in Tampa Bay in Week 2 as they won by 2 points. They then hosted the Cowboys and lost by a field goal. Then they had their bye week, and they went to Philadelphia after the bye week in Week 5. They lost by just 6 points to the Eagles as they made a valiant comeback attempt, but they fell short. And then last week in Week 6 on Monday Night Football, they lost to the Niners in St. Louis. It was actually a closer game than the scoreboard indicated. They almost actually pulled that one off. They almost sent it into overtime, but it would all be for naught. So here they are, these two division rivals. They're very familiar with each other. And although this game seems like it'd be an easy win for Seattle, it actually should be a little bit tougher than you might think. Although I am picking the Seahawks, but let's look inside the numbers. And when it comes to passing proficiency in 2014, the Seahawks are 31st in the NFL in passing yards per game. St. Louis, on the other hand, is 7th in the NFL in passing yards, as Austin Davis has been pretty spectacular, even though they haven't been converting that into wins in the win column. But he's putting up the yards, though. And let's look at the passing defenses. And the Seahawks are 19th in the NFL in yards allowed through the air, and the Rams are 9th. So surprisingly, I would not think this, but if you go and look at the numbers, you got to give the advantage to St. Louis in the passing attack. Is the Seattle, their passing game has been struggling. Russell Wilson, he's not necessarily a guy who puts up big numbers through the air. He can do it on the ground, on his feet, and he does what he has to win games. He's more of a game manager. He's still developing his passing, attack in terms of, putting up those numbers like that. He's still learning. He's still young, but he gets by on his hard work and his knowledge. Of course, he's learning every day, becoming a better player every day. And, they've already got the Super Bowl ring, so he obviously is very talented at quarterback. But this year, they've been struggling to get those passing yards. Of course, they're definitely missing Golden Tate, who's having a pretty big year there in Detroit. And the Legion of Boom has, as good as they're allowing a lot of yards through the air this year. Of course, the emphasis has been more on their running defense. And let's look at those running stats. The Seahawks are number 2 in the NFL when it comes to the ground game. So that's where their strength lies there with beast mode Marshawn Lynch. And the St. Louis Rams are 19th in the NFL when it comes to rushing the ball. They've been struggling this year to run it. And when it comes to running defense, the Seahawks are 6th and the Rams are 26th. So in the running game, the clear advantage, without a doubt, goes to the Seahawks. They're the second best team at running the ball, only behind the Cowboys. And then we look at points for and against. The Seahawks are 15th in points scored, and the Rams are 29th. In points against, the Seahawks are 14th, and the Rams are 30th. So when it comes to scoring, the Seahawks are middle of the road this year, but the St. Louis Rams are in the bottom of the barrel. So clear advantage goes to the Seahawks. They don't put up a lot of points, but they put up enough points. They don't stop teams from putting up a lot of points, but they stop them enough, to where they're above 500. And the Rams, though, the reason why they've only won one game is because they cannot put points on the board, and they cannot stop teams from putting points on the board. So overall, the Rams do have the advantage in the passing attack, but that's the only advantage they have. And a lot of that is, too, if you look inside the numbers, go a little bit deeper, and you find that the reason why the Rams are so good when it comes to their passing numbers is because they're playing from behind. And so when they get behind against teams, then they just go to the air. And so they're just airing it out. And then they put up big numbers because of that. They hit a lot of offensive passing yards. And they also are not letting up a lot of offensive passing yards, because at that point, once a team is playing with the lead, they start to run the ball against the Rams. And so the Rams have somewhat of an inflated, passing defensive stat. They're not really as good against the pass as might, that number might indicate. Like I said, it's because they're playing from behind. So that's something you got to take into consideration. Either way, I think the Seahawks should be able to go on the road and bounce back after that loss. They got to be fired up after losing that game in Seattle to Dallas. There's no way do I see Seattle losing 2 games in a row. They're too good to do that. St. Louis, maybe they could do something. Maybe they give them a game, because they are division rivals. They usually play each other, division rivals play each other tight. But even it being in St. Louis, I think the Seahawks should come out strong. Marshawn Lynch is going to pound the ball. He's going to run all over the Rams. They're not going to be able to keep beast mode out of the end zone. Russell Wilson should also have a big game as well against the Rams. And it's really just going to be a question mark of, how well are they going to contain Austin Davis. And Austin Davis, no one even ever heard of him, right? But until the season started. But people are starting to learn who he is. He put up 327 yards against the Cowboys and 375 yards against the Eagles. Of course, the Niners grounded him a little bit, brought him back down to earth. So we'll see against the Seahawks how he performs. If we actually look at his numbers, he's doing all right when it comes to protecting the ball. He has 7 touchdowns and 4 interceptions, so he don't throw too many interceptions, but that the ball-hawking Seahawks are going to be looking for some picks, with Chancellor and, Sherm, as well as Earl Thomas. Of course, they're going to be without Byron Maxwell from the looks of it, so we'll see how that affects the game. But the only chance the Rams really have is if somehow Austin Davis pulls something, out of his butt. But I don't really see that happening. I see the Seahawks should win this game. So maybe it ends up being a close game, but probably the Seahawks win this one by double digits. They said Beast Mode's going to have a monster game against the Rams, and that should keep Austin Davis off the field, and that should keep the Seahawks defense fresh. And so they should actually, they should be actually good for some big plays on defense, probably cause some turnovers, and they definitely going to shut down that run. So the Rams don't really have a lot of a running game. Zach Stacy hasn't really been doing much so far in the year. He has 240 yards. He's averaging 3.9 per carry. They did have some life, shown, and Trey Mason was doing all right, and they'll be looking to give him some more touches this week, but either way, it should be all Seahawks in this game. I think the Seahawks bounce back after that loss to Dallas, and they win this one. And so after the game, the Seahawks should have improved their record to 4-2. That's what I think. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. Interested to hear your thoughts and opinions. And if you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit the like button. And if you want more content, make sure to hit the subscribe button as we bring you upon further reviews and recaps for each and every single game, each and every single week, all the way through the playoffs and to the Super Bowl. We're also covering the baseball playoffs through the World Series. We also cover some college football as well, and we bring you a weekly show, The Wedge, where we do quick picks, fantasy fortune, fantasy football picks, and a weekly rewind of the week that was in pro football, as well as the Upon Further review for the Thursday night game. We usually have that up by Wednesday. Sometimes we get it up early on Tuesday, no later than Thursday. We definitely have it up by the Thursday night game, so keep an eye out for that. And thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and have a great weekend and enjoy all of the sports.